Hey everybody, welcome to Opinionate. I'm Nate Lee. Um, Wanted to just come on and give you a couple of little things after the critique made it out there. Some folks pulled up the critique, saw that it was the beginning of the interview with Cindy DeLuca, and thought it was the same thing, but it's not. What we actually did was take me asking her the question, her not giving me the answer, and then me critiquing that response. So it is different. You might want to watch it. You'll probably pee your pants. I think that's most of the response that I got from folks was that they kept watching certain things over and over and over again. Had a lot of fun with it, and being out on the street in Hazleton has a lot of responses. You can't imagine what it would be like to walk in a room and get applause, which has happened more than once for this whole thing and what I'm doing. It's just been an explosion that is pretty cool. I wanted to talk about the election results a little bit. I don't think that they have called the Democratic primary yet, which is really the only thing that was in play. DeLuca ran as an independent, so she wasn't on the ballot, and she is claiming that she got 477 or whatever it is write-in votes. But of course, there again, she's lying because not all of those votes were written to her. Most of them were written to Jeff Cassatt, the mayor, the guy that's the mayor now. And but she wants to make everybody think that she got 477 votes, which is ridiculous. So I wanted to clear that up. But they haven't called the Democratic primary yet because the night of the election, I think they were 17 votes apart with Castro leading. There are provisionary ballots that are still out, I guess. I don't know how that exactly works. But now they're 11 votes apart. So it looks like it's going to be Castro by 11 votes, but it still could change a little bit. The other thing is, a lot of folks want to know why I coined the DeLucas Ricky and Lucy. Obviously, his name is Ricky, and she is Lucy because if you watched I Love Lucy, which is where that comes from, Lucy would do anything to be in the show. That's what we're talking about over there on Cedar Street. Anything to be in the show, she's out there all week. This week I heard again with her camera and videotaping and just ridiculous stuff. Calling out somebody with their dog in their car. It's just, get a life. Go to work. It's unbelievable. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about it. I have a joke for you, a joke of the day, one of my old-time favorites that came from my old friend Benny Mateo, who is now not with us anymore. But he told this joke a long time ago, and I always thought it was funny, and he told it in broken English, like my descendants talked. And it goes something like this. It was two guys. Mario sees Antonio in a bar one night, but he doesn't want him to know that he's there because Antonio was a bragger, and all he would do is just brag about this or that. So he's kind of keeping it to himself, but then Antonio sees him, so he goes up and he says, "Hey, Angelo," he says, "where you been?" He said, when I came into this country, he said, I went to night to school to get the smart, to get education. And Angelo said, "Oh, Antonio, that's a nice." And then Antonio says, "Yeah," he says, "you know who was the first president of the United States?" And Angelo says, "No, who was it?" Antonio says, "No, who was it?" He said, "It was George Washington." He said, "I learned this when I went into night to school to get the smart, to get education." "Oh, that's nice," he said. So now he says to him, "Do you know who was Martin Luther King?" And Angelo says, "No, Antonio, who was he?" He said, "He was the guy make equal rights for everybody." He said, I learned this when I went into night to school to get the smart, to get education. Oh, that's a nice, Antonio. So now Antonio says, hey, Angelo, he says, you know who was Abraham Lincoln? He says, no, who was he? He said, he's the guy free the slaves. He said, you know, I learned this when I went into night to school, get the smart, to get education. Now, Angelo had enough by now, and this time he turns to Antonio this time, and he says, hey, do you know who was a Pasquale Gallucci? Antonio says, a Pasquale Gallucci? No. He says, who's that? He said, he's the guy spend the time with your wife while you were at night to school. Now, I hope you have a great day. I hope you have a great Memorial Day weekend. The weather is gorgeous. My buddy Joe Snedeker, which, by the way, two things. I have a cooking show on SSP TV, Samsung Productions, Channel 13 on Service Electric. You can go to YouTube and see it by just putting in Forget About It, F-U-G-E-T, About It, one word. And all of our videos come up, all of our shows come up with our cooking show. Sometimes we have a guest. Sometimes, most of the time, it's my friend Debbie Lassant is my cohort on the show. And then we also have a podcast out there with Joe Snedeker. You could look up Mr. Curiosity with Nate Lee and check that out as well. We're all over the place, you know what they say. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget, subscribing is free. You just have to put in your email, and then you'll get an alert every time that we do one of these videos. We have some great guests coming up. My good friend Tony Sands, that is the Sinatra guy all over the country, is going to be joining us. And also we spoke to Joe Madden, and he is going to also join us on a podcast here very soon. Maybe next Saturday we're going to try to get him. Until then, you have a great holiday, like I said, and we will be in touch very soon. Ciao.